Camera rolling in three, two. Welcome back. Now, in the words of Ndati Ndoroma, 10 years are indeed a milestone. And as said earlier, we are bursting at the seams with incredible excitement. Here to also tell us more about his journey with high economic intelligence is Mr. John Morgan Besaidner. John Morgan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Let's start at the very beginning. Where did matters start for you with high economic intelligence?
Right. So I'm going to take a bit of a back step. If I do go over time, you can stop me.
No problem.
But I think it's important to paint the picture here. So just going back to 2019, which is around the time I started that high economic intelligence, more specifically TFS. Those in the room should know what exactly that is. But my life has always been set up to go into investments. So from high school, I studied accounting, economics, mathematics. That was the stream. I went into university and I studied economics and then finance, right? So, and I was very direct, and I guess I made sure that I went to the right school. So I went to UCT as well, just because of finance. So I gave up Stellenbosch for UCT because I wanted to go into investments, right?
Very well.
So I made that decision very deliberately.
I spoke to Ndati earlier about how Economics 101 teaches us about opportunity costs.
Yes.
So if you choose UCT, you could go Stellenbosch.
Yes, exactly.
And vice versa.
Exactly.
That's how opportunity cost works.
Absolutely. So I was very happy to pay that opportunity cost because I was very deliberate and this is what I wanted to do. But I think it's important to note that during 2019, I was in South Africa. I wanted to leave the country, as I think many Namibian youths wanted to do at the time, mainly because we didn't have the localization push we have right now. Most of the investment work was being done in South Africa by South African companies. I think just before that, in 2018, is when Namibia actually, or the GIPF came forth and gave us an incubation program, where we had Namibian investment firms being started, and there was some localization. So I always had it in the back of my mind that at some point Namibia is going to localize. But I just didn't see it happening for me soon enough, so I left to South Africa. And then the big COVID happened. 2019, 2020, I was in South Africa. I had to come home.
It humbled us, that thing called COVID-19, right?
Exactly. They say man plans and God laughs. And I think that was the ethos for that year for myself. And I had to come back. I was unemployed. It was horrendous, 3 months. Nobody wanted to take me, and I don't blame them. No entrepreneur would, because nobody knew the world was going to ever come back to normalcy. It was a crazy time. So I started applying to different jobs, and I saw the advert with Tuyera Financial Services, TFS, Mr. Salomo Hayes' company. And I said, you know what, let me take a chance. It's in a different industry. And I did it. So to give you a backstory, it's micro lending, but it is for developmental purposes. So at this time, to give you the context, Namibian banks completely dried up with liquidity. They never gave out loans, as they should. Nobody knew what the future held for Namibia. And it was a bad time in that sense, especially for entrepreneurs. And what drew me towards it was the fact that this business was giving out finance to entrepreneurs. And I think under our tenure, we looked after a gentleman that was into farming agriculture in the north. So he was supplying like tropical fruit like bananas and these type of fruit that he actually grew in the north, brought them to Windhoek, and he needed money for fuel, something as simple as that.
John Morgan, it's clear that you're here to serve the fire. But does that approach at the time specifically not speak of a visionary approach, of a man with a mission, but certainly to revolutionize what it is that we've been experiencing? And you have touched on localization of our industry.
Yes. No, absolutely. And I think it goes further than that. So you do mention the man, and I think it's great to have a great visionary at the helm. He was leading that company and Hey as well very well. But I think what's more important, and first thing I realized when I stepped into the door, was this was a company that was run on stakeholder methodology and not shareholder. I didn't get a sense that he was trying to maximize his shareholder outcome, so maximize profits for himself as the shareholder. Instead, I got the sense that he was unlocking value for everybody involved. That includes the employee, that includes the Namibian market, that includes the Namibian economy, that includes anybody that has any type of relation with the company.
You're speaking to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
So what is your fondest memory of your time?
My fondest memory was, in fact, helping a gentleman, so this is very personal to me, who came to TFS asking for finance. And initially we were like, it just seems a bit too risky. I'm not going to go into details of his deal. But then as we sat with him, as we do and did at the time, and I'm pretty sure they still do it, to figure out exactly what you've done, where you've gone wrong, so that we can give you advice so that you can be better. And we came to find that he actually put up his car as collateral at a different micro lender. And the rates, firstly, were just insane. And secondly, if he didn't pay within the next 3 weeks, they were going to take his car. Now, mind you, his car was a very nice car. This car was about 500,000 Rand. I think his loan was 250,000 Rand. So he was going to lose. And I just felt like they were taking advantage of his situation. And again, I think that was a shareholder-driven decision. They were going out to maximize profits. And it was a difficult one because on one side, I have to manage the risks. And on the other side, I have to also give some profit to the company so that we can be fine. So I had to
tricky balance to strike,
exactly,
right?
especially since we're not a bank at that time, so we don't have deposits to lean on. This is actually shareholder money. So it was a difficult one for us, and I managed to get it over the line where TFS then gave him the money and we could get the car back and still finance him to actually finish his project. So just to see, and it's just one person, but I think if everybody does their part in helping the Namibians, empowering them financially, which I think was our target, I think this would be a much better economy, especially if we start taking responsibility for our people and our economy. So I think that was my fondest moment. That's something I take with me even until this day where I'm sitting. So it's been a great journey. It was short-lived, but it was one of the greatest moments of my life.
I've got no iota of doubt that you and I can talk about your experience for a very long time.
Yeah.
But speaking of how that still stays with you until this moment, how do you believe your time at Hay impacted your career trajectory?
Right. So this is very important. So obviously, from what I've explained, it was very clear that I was focused on investments. That's where I wanted to go. And then I had this little speed bump in the road. And obviously, Mr. Hay brought me back on track. I was back into the market. But what it did for me was it opened up my mind. And I think I have to go back to that point again, from shareholder to stakeholder. Before being at TFS and with Hay, my mindset was on myself, maximizing my own profits, making as much money as possible for myself, right? But I think after that, my mindset has changed and I'm focusing a lot more on impact. And I think that has increased my career trajectory. And I think I've climbed the corporate ladder very quickly, if I do say so myself. And I think it's because everywhere I go, I look to unlock value for everybody around me.
That's powerful.
Exactly. And that's something I picked up here. I wouldn't have picked it up anywhere else.
As we wrap up our conversation, any message to High Economic Intelligence for turning 10 years old?
The only thing I can say is congratulations. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you change many, many more lives.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. That's it.
John Morgan Besaidnout talking to us about how economic intelligence, the mother body, impacted and changed his life.
Thank you, man.